dare great things for Christ. Christ calls us to dare great things. In the marketplace, as well as in the mission field, there has never been a time like the present for the spirit of the Catholic entrepreneur. Now is the time for men and women of great courage and great vision to engage our church and our culture. Now is the time to dare great things. And here is your host as we dare great things, Father Nathan Cromley, the president and founder of the St. John Institute.
The life of St. John the Baptist is a study in detachment, from forsaking the goods of this earth and the relationships of natural human society, to going without in his many forms of asceticism, to finally letting go of his own claim to glory and his own claim to his disciples. St. John the Baptist was poor in spirit, and yet his influence was extremely powerful. What's the connection between his poverty of heart and the incredible influence that he gave as a Christian leader? I just want to continue our study with St. John the Baptist today because there's so much to learn in his example. Really, he's a study of the power of character in terms of our leadership. Like we hear about that a lot. It's a kind of in vogue these days to say it's a character-based leadership and we need to be authentic in who we are. And it's very true. We do. Authenticity is a powerful form of influence. And Pope Paul VI, for example, even said that authenticity is the only thing people will listen to today when it comes to the Christian message, that you have to be authentic. His famous quote that he says is, "People today will listen less to teachers than they will to witnesses," right? Like a witness has the authenticity of their life behind their words. And so we think, well, how do we, as leaders today, how do we become authentic? And what's the place of character in our leadership? And I find it very interesting because as intriguing as this is from a Christian point of view, it also has impact even in the secular realm. As study after study is being put out on the importance of a good business culture for profitability. That culture will drive profitability in the marketplace. Why? Because workers, there's so much that our people do for us because they're happy. And not just happy, but because they work together well. If we can form true teams, we can generate something together that's greater than the sum of everything that we can do apart. It's called synergy. It's one of these famous kind of catchphrases that people talk about today. Well, what's the secret behind synergy? Well, teamwork. And what's the secret behind teamwork? Well, that, of course, is $1 million question, quite literally. And there's many answers to it. I just want to point out that one of the key elements behind teamwork is morale. Morale and culture. This kind of ambiance that we work in that allows us to go the extra mile, to resolve conflicts before they start, to seek after one's own good. And this, of course, is a place where Christianity has direct and immediate business impact, because Christianity is it's a culture. Christianity is itself a culture. It's a way of working, a way of acting, a way of being together that is very conducive to to producing great things together. Be it making great dishes together at a food manufacturing company, to making great furniture together, somewhere in an Ohio furniture manufacturing place, whatever it might be. The secret is, how do I get people to work together? If they like each other and they like themselves and they like you and they like your product, you're going to end up having a very highly motivated workforce. I'm thinking, for example, of what the Marines have done, all the studies that the Marines did behind what makes someone able to be a Marine, what makes someone able to go and fight for their country to that level of even sacrificing their lives. And of course, there's a myriad of explanations behind this. But the end result is that a warrior becomes a warrior and fights not for money or pay, not for the love of country alone. They fight for each other. And so in the Marines, from day one of training, you're trained that we are a team, that we are a unit, and they collaborate and make a culture that itself drives the output of the warrior spirit and the fighting that they need. Well, let's say culture drives performance. You can have the best compensation in the world, you can have the clearest objectives in the world, but you will get the most out of your people by driving the culture that they absorb and that motivates them. And it's the same in the family as it is in business. It's the role of the parents to create a culture. You create that in-home culture where good behavior is rewarded, bad behavior is not rewarded, and where the children work together. And that's the whole art of parenting, is the generation of culture. And by extension, then, the art of governing a society is a generation of culture. Now, here's the secret, that just as culture is behind, great children, and it's behind great society, you could have all the laws in the world to try to control a city, and it wouldn't be as powerful as if you had healthy families. We all know this. Where the family is strong, the nation is strong, right? And where the family is weak, no laws can ever replace them. You can't govern people who do not have virtue, right? It becomes an impossible task. The society collapses. And where does virtue come from? Where does a family culture come from? This is a key point. Write this down, right? In the end, nothing forms culture more than the character of the leader. All of the policies and the procedures and the incentivization packages and everything else that we do, which is very important, but it won't hold unless there's the moral force inside the leader to hold it. You could create the biggest programs in the world, but they'll fall flat if we don't execute them. And where does the execution of a program come from? A cultural matrix come from? The desire of the leader to see it happen. And that desire comes deep down inside from their own ethical sense, their own character. And this, of course, is then trickled down through their behaviors, their choices, their habits. People watch what you do much more than they listen to what you say. They watch what you do and how you do it much more than what your company's policies and procedures do, because those are on the outside. You can incentivize things all day long and reward things all day long. But if they don't believe you, then no matter what you say, its impact will be limited. But if they believe you, then even if you fail to say things or do them, they'll still follow you. Human beings are intelligent creatures. We're used to looking for what we can trust. At a certain point, Gallup put out a poll on leadership and asked, what are the 4 top qualities of a leader? And it came out with this list. The number 1 quality of leadership is vision. So what people look for more than anything else in a leader is vision. The second quality on the list is they want someone that they can trust. And the third quality is whether or not that person trusts them, whether they're developed, whether the leader believes in them, hopes in them, puts responsibility on them. And then the fourth quality was passion. And I found that amazing that 2 of the qualities of leader come from them, meaning that they, in fact, are visionaries and they have passion. But 1/2 of the quotient of leadership actually comes from the people who follow the leader, whether or not they choose to trust that leader and whether or not the leader chooses to empower them to serve and to work in the best way possible. This is an awesome question for you as a parent, especially if you're struggling in parenting. Like, what's that bond of trust look like between the 2 of you? And the thing is when you're looking in a workplace, for example, everyone's looking to see whether they can have confidence in that leader, whether that leader is genuinely good. And so, yes, you need to do the right things, but even more, you need to be the right person, right? Character influences people in a profound way by allowing them to trust. And if they trust, then they can follow. And if they follow, then you can do wonderful things together with the organization that you're leading. This is why Christianity is such an advantage when it comes to leadership, because a Christian's first emphasis is on that character. We're looking at John the Baptist. We're going to look at the amazing things that he did in his life. Look at the crowds of people that were around him. And what was at the root of it all? It was a heart that could be trusted. And how did his heart get to be that way? It wasn't by what he had. It was by what he gave up. It wasn't by his possessions, but by his poverty.
Would you like to hear more from Father Nathan? Join the St. John Leadership Network and receive a 2-minute glance at the gospel every Sunday morning right to your phone. To learn more, go to www.stjohnleadershipnetwork.org/member and join for free today.
Leading in the world is obviously a challenge for all of us, right? It's a challenge that you've taken up to say that I'm going to be at the forefront of change. I'm going to be the person who initiates getting things done for the better, right? That's a huge sense of responsibility that a leader takes upon themselves, right? The easiest thing to do is to just cash in from our leadership instead and say, it's all about me. It's not about you. And so I'll take it easy. I'll hide behind this or that. I'll be at the top behind a glass ceiling just so that I can't be bothered, right? Well, then that's not real leadership, okay? Your position of power is not the same as the effect of your leadership. Anyone who truly leads is engaged in a constant battle, a constant labor, a constant amount of toil because you're constantly doing things. Leadership is all about action and it flows from action. This can be exhausting. We all know. And what's more, the philosophies abound around how we are supposed to lead. And so if we listen to the people who are on the outside of grace, who are not leading us from a Christian perspective, usually it comes down to something about ourselves. Even if we do good things for others, we want to be recognized for those good things. That leadership, it flows as a kind of exaltation of ourself, where even again, if we're doing good things for others and things are abounding, the world would say, well, take stock of that. That's your reward. How different it is to follow Christ into leadership. The leadership itself is going to be very similar, right? It's about getting people to do great things, helping people to do great things, organizing them for synergy and teamwork and collaboration, producing things beyond what they could do alone. That's fine. And the structure is going to be very similar. But there are key points of difference between the world sense of leadership and the leadership that Christ asks for from us. And we can see that difference writ large and clear in the leadership of St. John the Baptist. On the one hand, his leadership was just like anyone else. I mean, if you want to talk about an influencer, John the Baptist kind of wins the competition for influencer of his day, okay? Because everybody was enamored with him. And there was almost nothing that you could find reproach for in John the Baptist. If anything, because they came to him and they said, "Are you the Christ?" John the Baptist says, "No." And they say, "Well, are you Elijah who is to come?" And he says, "No." So they say, well, who are you in the end? And he says, "I am the voice of one crying out in the wilderness, make straight the ways of the Lord." What an incredible thought. I mean, they say, "John the Baptist, are you the Messiah?" I mean, he could have said yes and they would have believed him. I mean, "Are you the one who is to come?" I mean, he could have claimed something that he was not in order to have a powerful position in a place in this world. And instead, he clings to the truth. But what is the truth? The truth is that I'm a voice crying out in the wilderness. This is not really a title of glory, right? He's really, everything in John the Baptist is pointed outside of him. He's a man in love who's defining himself by the one whom he loves. He literally is more enamored with the one whom he's serving than the service that he does for him. This is a really wonderful lesson for us all. Because we do some amazing things. Some of you are running companies. Some of you are physicians possessing incredible knowledge and skill. Some of you literally have people's lives in your hands. You are psychologists and psychiatrists healing a broken humanity. I mean, the places that you are as first responders. I mean, all of you who are here right now are here because, well, you have an importance and an important place. You are skilled individuals, right? And so what the people outside who don't know Jesus will say is they'll say, cash in on that. That it's all about you in the end. Make sure people recognize you, win every award that you possibly can win, and then be self-satisfied that amongst the history and the annals of history, you stand as a great man in the history of the world, right? And that might be the case. I hope that there are great men and women here. I hope that many of you go on to do the most amazing things, because we need to take our world back and we need people that are in the world to do that. And yet I also remind you, how do you define success? How do you define greatness? Because to the degree that you define greatness as your self-exaltation and self-service and being recognized for your talents and abilities in the eyes of others, you will also earn the distrust of the people who are underneath you. You can't really form a culture when you yourself are not good. It's not a matter of just being skilled. It's a matter of being a person of integrity. In other words, a person whose word flows from the virtue they have of their heart. I don't just tell you what to do. I do it myself. Human beings follow human beings. Right? So where are you in being the goodness that inspires people to engage themselves at a deeper level? I mean, put simply, we're talking about virtue, right? This is what Christians call virtue. It's kind of an old-fashioned word, but it's a powerful word, because what virtue means is excellence. The excellence of soul, the excellence of the way that my mind and my will have mastered, well, my selfishness, my passions, if you want to use a technical word. But what it means is how well that I can really make the love that is inside of me real. Because if I make love real, then I become love. And a person who has become love, well, their level of impact goes to the deepest part of the people whom they're influencing. I can influence you on the outside by laws and coercion, but I can lead you from the inside if you are touched in your heart by who I am. And you'll see who I am to the degree that I'm able to manifest it through my actions. And see, that's what character is. Character is taking the love that you have in your heart, the truth of who you know you are, and making that manifest by your actions, by your words, by your decisions, right? This is where John the Baptist was so strong. The reason why everyone listened to this guy is because he was absolutely 100% behind everything that he was saying. His words were of greatness and of excellence, were backed up by the truth of what he was living. He was trustworthy. And so when a trustworthy person speaks words of confidence to those who are around them, well, they want to follow. They want to, all of Jerusalem and all of Israel was trying to live up to what this guy was saying. He was saying, repent, come back to God, leave behind your ways of sin. And people were listening and following because he was real. His words, he owned, right? He was behind his words. This is what character will do for you. The thing about character that's so amazing is that, just like I said before, it flows from your love. And so in a real sense, it flows from your poverty. It's by you being more enamored by the one whom you're serving than by the service that you give to them. More enamored by the one who's drawn you into action than you are by the action that you're performing. It's about having this kind of hole in your soul, a thirst for the one who is greater than you. And that allows, when you have that kind of love, that love is made manifest, well, people will trust you because they know it's not about you. It's about this greater mission, this greater one, the one to whom you bear witness. That's the genius of the leadership of John the Baptist. He had such influence and such power because he had such poverty of heart. It wasn't about him. It was about the one who was to come.
Would you like to start your Thursday mornings with a scriptural leadership lesson? Join the St. John Leadership Network, where Father Nathan hosts a 30-minute call at 6:30 a.m. in all 4 U.S. time zones. To learn more, go to www.stjohnleadershipnetwork.org/member and join for free today.
The power of St. John the Baptist doesn't come from his talents. It didn't come from his skill. It didn't come from his position in the world. It came from his poverty. Right? So what does that mean? Obviously, it came from his poverty. He had physical poverty. He didn't own anything. He had relational poverty. He wasn't married. Right? He didn't have a family. He was completely possessed, seized, right, by this aspiration towards God. And for many of us, we say, okay, well, that means basically he's a monk. Well, he is. I mean, the monks, they used to say John the Baptist is the prototype for monks, right? And monks and hermits and people who have forsook the world, because he did. Well, what power does that have for us who are in the world? All right, I just want to put it this way. What if you were someone who believed in something so deeply and profoundly that it led your life? What would that look like? What would happen to you, for example, if you believed in God? I mean, would you think that would make you less trustworthy or more trustworthy? What would happen if you allowed a love, an authentic love for your people to be the reason why you came into work every day? And what if your people knew it? If they just sensed that this leader is actually in this for us, to provide clarity, to provide organization, to provide accountability, to provide vision for us? You think that they would be happier to work there or less happy to work there? What if in a family, your kids saw and understood that you existed, mom and dad, for their sake? I mean, not in a selfish way, but in an incredible way, that even if you disciplined them, you were disciplining them for their good. Do you think that that would make them better children or worse children? Like, I mean, it's obvious, right? Because leadership is about more than just getting functionality out of the outside. It's about getting heart. If you can engage the heart of your people, well, how do you engage heart? By trustworthiness, soundness of character. Where does trustworthiness come from? It's going to come from the way that you manifest love. And where does love come from? That's just it. Love is a response to something bigger than you, something outside of you, something that enchants you, with which you are enamored and drawn. A person who loves in a very real way becomes poor. I mean, isn't this what Jesus means when he says, "Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven"? It's almost like he's saying that the kingdom of heaven causes the poverty of spirit. Like, I am poor in spirit because the kingdom of heaven is mine. And I can't fill my heart with something that I love. I can only let my heart flow towards something that I love. And the more that I love, the more that I give. And of course, the more that I possess, right? Because love is also something that makes you rich. Like, you're rich in your love, but you're rich because love gives you a purpose outside of yourself. So you're rich in your poverty and you're poor in your wealth. Isn't that amazing? What a paradox. And yet it's so true. The more that I love the rich, the wealthier that I am in things of the heart. And the wealthier I am in things of the heart, the more that I give it away. The poorer that I become. It's really almost like saying that the secret of my life is not me, and it's not you serving me. That the secret of my life is one greater than me, whom I get to serve. Right? And when you find that, of course, you gain life, but you gain life by giving it away. It's the whole paradox. And yet it's so true. And when you look at St. John the Baptist, you're seeing a man who's living that paradox. And he's literally winning the hearts of Israel by gaining their trust, because he allows his whole character to be formed by this desire for the coming of the Messiah, for the coming of the kingdom of heaven, for obedience and reverence to be given to God. Religion, in other words, doesn't estrange him from his fellow men. Religion draws his fellow men towards him. When it's a true religion, you don't have to win over anybody. They will come to you, because true religion makes you poor of spirit, poor in yourself. Now, regardless of the religious effect of leadership, let's look at this from a real practical point of view. How do I emulate John the Baptist in my everyday life as a Christian leader? Well, number one, I wake up in the morning and I offer my day to Christ that he may use me. What, Lord, is your mission for me this day? I know what my mission is, my list of tasks, my worries, my cares. But have I taken the time at the beginning of this day to literally say, Christ, I'm here for you. My cares, my anxieties, these are just the things, the way that I respond to my tasks for the day. But let's make sure that your number one task at your day is to do his will, to let him accomplish what he wants to through you. Then you be open for those little chance encounters, the glances where you can pick someone's spirit up, the words you can say of encouragement, the ways you can avoid negativity in your speech, pessimism in your attitudes, the way that you can say, you know what, I'm here because I'm at the service of someone greater than me. First practice is your morning offering. How valuable it is. I used to see people that would cut out the morning offering and tape it to their mirror in their bathroom. I think that's a great thing. Every once in a while I visit homes and I see people who do this, and it's always wonderful because I find myself reading what's on the mirror. You know, it's incredible. You're sitting at someone's house and you're reading everything that's on their mirror because it's right there in front of you. What a great way to spend brushing your teeth in the morning, saying your prayers at the same time. I've seen people do the same thing with their computer. In the upper corner of the screen, they tape a prayer. They tape a picture of Jesus, right? They remember what they're there for, right? Second thing that you can do to emulate John the Baptist is look for ways to help other people to surpass you. Like, in other words, if I'm really there as a leader, I ought to be generating, if I'm successful as a Christian leader, I ought to be generating leadership underneath me that's even greater than my leadership. I mean, wouldn't it be a terrible thing if you were the apex and the summation of the greatness in your company? Wouldn't it be terrible? Wouldn't it be terrible if like all of your kids say, I could never be as good as mom and dad? You'd almost look at yourself, well, I guess I'm a failure. And I say, yeah, and that maybe you are, right? Like the whole goal of our leadership is to create people who are even better than us. Well, when was the last time I did that? We see this in the life of St. John the Baptist, right? He had disciples, men who had left the city behind and were living with him in the desert, who looked up to him as a spiritual father, who as an example, he was teaching them and they were living in a lifestyle pattern on his footsteps. And when Jesus came, you know what he told his disciples? He said, I am not the Christ. This is behold the Lamb of God who takes away the sins of the world. He literally is turning his disciples away from him and giving them away. His glory, right? I mean, the people that are there living and emulating him, he doesn't care about it. He's so in love with a greater purpose that he doesn't cling to his people. Instead, he liberates them. And St. Andrew and St. John, the beloved, they hear him and they follow what he says and they go to Jesus. He's literally helping his people to become better by not clinging to the influence that he has over them. He's poor of heart, which makes him a great leader. Well, could we do that too? Well, are we afraid of the very people who follow us? Or do we, on the contrary, not care because we're here for them? If we really care about our people and really care about the mission, well, then we're poor, right? And in that poverty, we can lead with a character that inspires fidelity, inspires loyalty, inspires gratitude, but also inspires greatness. And that's really the difference between a worldly leader and a leader who lives for Christ and works for Christ, is that a leader who lives under Jesus' influence is a leader who leads out of love and therefore with poverty, and therefore builds up trust and becomes the foundation of a glorious, true human culture for the betterment of the people whom they lead.
Dare great things for Christ.
Share your feedback with Father Nathan. Send us an email at communications@stjohninstitute.org. That's communications@stjohninstitute.org. And visit www.stjohninstitute.org and sign up for our newsletter to receive updates from Father Nathan.